Hey, and I wonder, those 5 assists, is that one that you threw to Sav? Does that count?
Yeah, she's a better Chili's to be on a better team. Now that Caitlin Clark has signed a new deal in Europe, ESPN is pretending as though they have any influence over her choices. They don't. No matter how much they moan, plead, or stamp their feet, Clark is packed or things and is turning around. Why? Because Clark has a great deal of common sense and self-respect, because Card genuinely values yourself in contrast to the WNBA genius is in charge. She won't stay and serve as a punching bag for a lead that can't even keep its biggest player safe. Why should she remain? She expressed anger with the league's referees and a recently televised comment saying, "I feel like I'm getting hammered and everybody's physical with me." She has struggled with the physical defense she has experienced at the professional level. Additionally, opponents get away with things that others are not able to. Caitlin Clark stated as much. Players have mauled her, referees have disregarded her, and haters, who couldn't bear that she was the only one keeping this force of illegal live, have harassed her. "I'm angry because you know your meal ticket is always getting attacked. The entire season as included shady plays. She's the WNB is beat up cash cow, but now that she's decided she's worth more, people are going crazy. We apologize to ESPN, but all you have left is a large empty nest of last potential after your golden goose jumped the core." After dropping a bombshell on the WNBA, Caitlin Clark is leaving for Europe, and it's almost funny how ESPN is seeming indifference to this development. Caitlin is leaving a path of dashed hopes and crushed egos behind, or she heads overseas. She's tired of the circus show that the WNBA has become. She's finally had enough after spending the entire season bearing the weight of the league on her shoulders, taking severe fouls and getting body checked that she was on a hockey rink rather than a basketball court. And what do you know, I hold her completely innocent. This young player's a rookie on the wrong team, has the necessary skills or to deal with the brutality of that league. You see, this isn't just a player advancing in his career. Do recall her last encounter with the Connecticut Sun, assists, 7 rebounds and 29 points, cheaper for mostly as a one-woman performance. Her teammates, meanwhile, were occupied with being the stars of a comedy of errors, missing easy baskets and pulling our players that would make a high school coach wins. What action did the WNBA take? They sat back and watched as the referees treated her like a punching bag. Although WNBA fans didn't sign up for UFC battle, that's precisely what happened every time Clark took the court yesterday. Caitlin Clark was abused in our very first WNBA playoff match. And at last year's PN, and its analysts are awakening. Oh, so they finally discovered they have been sitting on a moneymaker all law. How practiced the Indiana Fever were lucky to draw 3,000 spectators to a game before to keep. Not so much like a formal event as a block party in the neighborhood. But once she did every game, so 17,000 supporters crammed into the arena. That is a poor 0% rise. The league's highest attendance at home and away belonged to the Indiana Fever. Course led by came with Clark. Average fever was 17,000 degrees. How's influence on that? They didn't merely at the makings of a star. Their phenomenon was unique to their generation, yes, but let's continue to concentrate on sharing the wealth rather than honoring the one athlete who brought attention to the WNBA on around. Should Caitlin Clark emerge as the heroic figure? Milk it if she's the golden girl, and let's not even discuss that tales of goods in the history of the league. Caitlin Clark's jersey sold more than that of any other player. Even icons like Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi were discussing a rookie, a player in his first year of competition defeating Hall of Famers. That is not just remarkable but also historic, for games were virtually a national event, and she made the BA into a must-watch program on television. However, was she ever treated like the superstar she is by ESPN? No, rather they provided mediocre coverage. Betraying her is merely another participant, and now they're fumbling to make it seem as though they didn't snooze on ESPN. It's too late. The vote is already crossed the Atlantic. You missed it. She should be on Astronomer Squad though. Or less vague about viewership. The Newark Liberty game, attractive 1.5 million views. That surpasses several TNT and be a gift. And what's left now that she's gone? Dusty jerseys, empty seats, and a group of ESPN talking heads attempting to find out how they could have ruined the easiest victory in history of sports broadcasting. It's hilarious to watch ESPN and everyone else suddenly race to pay attention when Caitlin Clark decides to pack up and move to Europe after experiencing nothing short of a nightmare, the WNBA. At last, the truth is beginning to surface, the same light that will fade here and around 12 hours upon Caitlin Clark's elimination from the postseason. Beyond brutal was the physicality Clark had to deal with in the NFL. Disregard the defense. Every time she tied her shoes, it seemed like she was walking into a street brawl, was being elbowed, pushed, and hammered. Basically every nasty tactic known to man, and the league's reaction by acting as though nothing was going on. Consider yourself a rising star. You are treated like a punching bag by the league and the face of a team. It's critical that we make this clear. I mentioned this morning that some players, if you want to call them jealous, have certain traits. This is one of the things I brought up. Okay, so you want to utilize the term jealousy. Let's not even discuss the officiating here. Were any president, because if you watched any of her games, Clark was being physically assaulted on the court, and it appeared as though the referees were playing see no evil, hear no evil. She expressed her feelings about being pummeled out there. What action did the WNBA take? Dismissed it like if it were any ordinary Tuesday. The well-known eye poke event ought to have served as a warning to everyone. However, the WNBA chose to ignore it, as if it were commonplace for a top player to be regarded as an outsider in there only. However, you will lose money and your league will suffer if you are unable to provide the desired level of entertainment to your audience, supply the product, and generate income. The cost in terms of emotions. It's impossible to put it into language. Every misconnection, every cheap shot, it wears you down. You're sacrificing everything to support a team, but in the process you're left vulnerable and defenseless, furthermore chastised for not being firm enough. Please give me a moment. The league dropped the ball so badly that is still rolling along with its cheerleading media. They now wish to make up for lost time. Pathetic. And for some reason this woman decides to swipe at the basketball. She lowered her hand, her fingernails, and poked them directly into Caitlin Clark's. I know foul call was made. No referees interjecting to check on anything. Is this blatantly inappropriate? Not at all. Everyone simply went on, but whole lot it gets even more juicy. Alicia Thomas. And her remarks regarding the fan base's racial bias. Thomas launched charges saying that rather than her amazing talent, Clark's or kills apparently based and racial dynamics. What action did ESPN take? You guys are the genuine racists. Those guys are just acting like bigots, the people who are finding reasons to despise Caitlin Clark and her growing fan base. Ate it up quickly, absorbing this ridiculous story as though or brand new, rather from emphasizing our games that broke records they interpreted or achievement in terms of race. Really, their Clark was shattering records, carrying a team on our back and breaking ankles. And they wish to minimize your accomplishments to a discussion about race. It's been a lot of rubbish, to be honest. I don't think I've ever encountered racist remarks from the Indian Fever fan bases in my 11-year career. We saw her face of a grave situation that occurred in this world, and to be honest, it's intolerable. Indeed, it has no place there. Trying to stir the pot even more, they lean into it because it's obvious they can't read a room. Clark's answer: she refused to back down, stating that her success is the product of perseverance and hard work rather than some cheesy racial narrative. However, the fact that she was even forced to take that action demonstrates how biased the media's portrayal has been. 14,000 people follow her. Additionally, the majority people are unaware of her and the athletics world, and it's really simple to disregard. Caitlin Clark is the only reason anyone is even aware of her identity. Furthermore, she still only has 14,000 Twitter followers. There's not much of a she is the next big thing, so they could have emphasized that, because spoiler alert, she is. Instead, they embellish a story that only serves to damage her reputation and bring everyone down. It's very reprehensible. What effect does this have on public perception? In the interim, it's generating a poisonous environment that Clark is entitled to. She's worked hard, but instead of receiving the credit she deserves, she now has to handle these sideshow scandals. The golden goose is her. Believed must wake up and understand the Clark is not the only victim of this kind of situation. The entire WNBA is being made to appear amateurish by it, and let's not even talk about the WNBA is inclusive story. They drilled themselves as the league of opportunity and equality the entire season. However, they ignored her when it came time to safeguard the most valuable asset. The WNBA and ESPN are now going to regret ignoring the lone player who turned them into a visually stunning show. They allowed Caitlin to elude them. She was their lifeline, their heartbeat, and their pulse. They are now left to watch as she leaves with all of her belongings and her abilities for Europe, and all of a sudden everyone is acting as though they have now discovered she is the genuine deal. Too little too late, I suppose. The WNBA had the opportunity to center an entire team around her and establish her as the league spokesperson. However, they blew it, and now their best player is gone. I am upset because you know your meal ticket is constantly assault. The entire season has included shady plays regarding ESPN. They are attempting to conceal the truth and preserve their dignity, while in reality they failed to recognize a generational talent, and now they find themselves clutching a big fat nothing. So Caitlin Clark, good luck in Europe. She is moving to a place where people will genuinely appreciate her talent, or she will be allowed to be destroyed every game while the referees ignore it, and perhaps this will serve as the necessary wake-up call for the WNBA and ESPN. For now, they find themselves at the center of a joke they didn't even know they were telling. Since Caitlin Clark is playing, she is unable to play that game. It's going to be totally mayhem over at ESPN with her leaving for Europe. The league, which let's be honest needed a miracle to stay relevant, will have to bid a fond farewell. The kitten's juicy ratings, the surge in gear sales, and all the hype she generated. They are now left to try to overhype guys who are not even close to matching Clark's single-season accomplishments. There is just too much irony. Just before she is leaving, they at last recognize the treasure they possess, with Caitlin Clark packing her bags and leaving for Europe. ESPN and the WNBA are left with a huge hole that will be difficult to fill. Instead of creating an empire around her, they're reduced to scrounging around for leftovers. Players like Clark are rare, and when you do acquire one, you have to treat them like a king or queen. ESPN is going to pay a price for missing that opportunity. It's not only a setback, it's disastrous. The WNBA blew a huge opportunity to become something special. Caitlin, have fun in Europe. You deserve far better than this fiasco.